want love, platonic, familial, but the type of love that many of us are always searching for is romantic. Romantic love has been depicted in poems, songs, plays for millennia, and it's been something we look for in our lives once those feelings strike. But what happens when you've died before you get to feel that spark? What happens when you can't experience the thing that many have thought about? What happens when Cupid's arrow misses you? You become a Cupid, of course.
So I actually want to animate my intro, but I can't draw well yet. So, this is a placeholder.
Hi, this is Mix, and welcome back to my channel where I talk about manga, books, just media as a whole, and writing. And today I want to talk about this Yuri manga that I found, which really needs help to make sure that its story is finished being told. It's called Love Bullet. Now, before we get into the video, I just want to say something. We are not going to pay attention to that hole in my wall. Okay? We're babysitting my uncle's cat, and unfortunately, she is very, very clingy. She is a little kitten. She just got neutered. We've been watching her for the past 2 weeks. And while I was trying to film this, she was constantly jumping up on my bed while I was trying to film, was pawing all over my chest with her very sharp claws, so I had to close my door so that she couldn't come in. And now you guys have to see that hole in my wall, which, you know, my house is rather old. It's a very old house. My grandma has had it since she was in her 20s. So it's a very old house, and we're just not going to pay attention to that hole in the wall. I know I've been putting a lot of emphasis on that hole, but we're not going to pay attention to that hole, okay? It's not something that we're going to mind. Now, let's get into Love Bullet. What exactly is the premise of Love Bullet? Love Bullet is a very new Yuri manga created by Ine. I think that's how you say her name. And it is about Koharu, who has just become a newly developed cupid, and she is currently trying to make enough people fall in love so that she can get a second chance of life after dying before she was able to fall in love. And that's where it is now. That's the basic plot and synopsis for this series as a whole. Now, if you want to read the manga yourself, just look up Love Bullet English translation so that you can read it. But this video, if you don't want to read it per se, but you want to like hear the plot of it and what happens in the first volume to see if you really want to support the author, which I think you will by the end of this video, then that's fine by all means. And I'll also tell you how you can help the author and help save this manga as well. I'll be leaving, like, you know, links to the Google Doc that helps you understand how you can help the author. But as of right now, let's get into the video. Now, we are just going to discuss the first volume because that's what's out. And actually, while I was writing the script for this video, I found out that, like, there was a next chapter released. So I'm also going to talk about that next chapter too, but that's about it. It's 7 chapters, so this video is probably not going to be that long. So let's buckle in. Series off learning a bit more about cupids. We start off with this very beautiful colored manga panel about like how the cupids are formed. Basically, when a person dies before experiencing love, the goddess of love comes down and makes her become one of her children, basically the cupids. Now, the cupids basically use bows and arrows to help people fall in love, and once they've helped enough people fall in love, they can get a second chance of life. But now, in the modern day, the cupids have exchanged their bows and arrows for something a bit more professional. Now, we started off with our main character, Koharu, who is in between these 3 friends, 2 girls and 1 boy. And she's just kind of like sitting there looking at the guy and looking at the girl, and they're acting very friendly towards this one girl. And then you realize there are 3 other characters as well who we'll get into, who are also watching from afar and are surveying the situation. Come to find out, we are in a love triangle situation. So the girl's name is Hina, and Hina has 2 other friends, a girl and a guy. And what happened was is that these 2 cupids made these 2 fall in love with her, and now we're stuck in a romance, a love triangle, more to say. The cupids are kind of split up about how to deal with this. 2 cupids want her to go with the girl, and the other two cupids want her to go with the guy. Now, Koharu is kind of surveying the situation in a much different light because she understands that Hina doesn't exactly want the friendship to break up, because the thing about the love triangle is if you make one person fall in love with the other, then that friend is going to slowly start to distance themselves, and then all of a sudden the friendship is kind of messed up, so to say. So Koharu is trying to get some more surveillance on this and follows Hina to the cash register, where she seemed to have forgotten a photo of her and her friends when they were kids. The cashier is like, oh yeah, you guys are my regulars, I found your photo, and Hina talks about how she never wants their friendship to break apart. Now Koharu is really split because knowing that this girl really does not want this friendship to end, she doesn't really know who to pick because they have to pick someone or else they can't get the reward. So now we have like this big battle sequence between two sides. Koharu is on the side with her name is Ina, when they want to have the girl fall in love with Hina, and then Chio and Kana are on the boy side and wanting the boy to fall in love with the girl. And can I just say that the battle sequences in this, like, the art is so creative, like sorry, like, the art is just so creative. I'm so interested in how they were able to find such different ways to impose like hearts and wings and feathers and all this stuff to make it look so romantic, even though it's like really deadly. Like, I was kind of surprised about how good the fight scenes were, especially because this is like the prologue for the series. This is just like our introduction to a few characters and a little bit of world building, and I really enjoyed it a lot. It's a simple chapter, but it gives you enough information to like really fall in love with these characters. So Koharu, being a newly recruited cupid, doesn't really understand how to like fight that well, so she's getting her ass beat. Her ass is getting beat. Kana is like her mentor basically, and even though she's on the opposing side, she's still trying to help out, you know, Koharu with trying to figure this whole thing out. But while she was helping her, she ends up getting struck by one of the love bullets. Now, here's the thing. The cupids can't fall in love. Like, they're not supposed to fall in love, and they physically cannot fall in love. So what exactly happens when a bullet that makes people fall in love hits a creature that can't fall in love? They get incredibly envious. Like, for a good 10 minutes, they are just incredibly envious about how they couldn't fall in love, how it's so unfair. I want to fall in love. I want to be in love. I want love. They're just talking about love, love, love for the next 10 minutes. They're completely incapacitated. And, you know, Koharu is trying to use this as a chance to, like, you know, hit Hina to make her fall in love with the one girl. And during this whole altercation, Kana ends up, like, getting back into the groove of things way quicker than she expected, and is able to incapacitate both her, Shiho, and Ina so that they can give Koharu a chance at making the strike. Now, because she's thinking about saving the friendship and also making sure that this girl gets the relationship that she wants, she instead hits both the girl and the cashier that she was talking to. And something that I really want to talk about in this manga that I really, really love is how they don't make like the gay relationship like some big thing. Like, you know how Disney likes to talk about how, oh yeah, we put a gay character in this film. They're just like a really minor character who gets one line of dialogue where they talk about their wife, but that's it. It's a gay rep, everybody. Let's all celebrate. I like how this manga, it's about love too, and that's the thing. It's like, it's talking about love, and they're not afraid to like put in gay relationships either, because most of the time when you do read books that revolve around cupids and love and romance, there does seem to be a bit of a heteronormative gaze when it comes to that, and I was very happy and relieved to see how they treated like gay relationships. Like, the cupids didn't treat it as some big thing that a cupid ended up hitting a girl as well to make her fall in love with another girl. They don't treat it as some like big reveal that, oh my god, we make sure that gay people of the same sex fall in love too, like gay people can love too. Like, no, it's like treated as normal, and it's not out there to make a girl fall in love with another girl. Like, they treat it like it's a normal thing, like it's not some extraordinary thing, and I just really appreciate that as a lesbian. But anyway, it all works out. She gets her award, and we finally get some more insight into the next chapter about how exactly Koharu became a cupid. Koharu's backstory, I do kind of want to discuss the names and a little bit more about the characters that we saw in the prologue. Now, in all media, the name of a character is going to possibly have a deeper meaning than we expect, because this meaning could give more insight into the character's backstory, personality, or viewpoints on certain matters, and I've always appreciated that about names. And this is especially known in like manga and anime, just like in Japan as a whole, because Japan as a culture does have a tendency with the names, especially in fiction, to kind of make their names puns on the characters. Like that's something that's very well known, like in Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright, and all the characters from that series have a tendency to have names that are double entendres or very punish in nature once you know the Japanese language pretty well, and I always found that very interesting. So first up is our main character, Koharu. Koharu's name has two separate meanings. First meaning being spring/summer, and the next meaning small/heart. So we have two meanings, spring and summer, small/heart. Now the heart motif kind of makes sense because she is a cupid and she's helping people fall in love, so that does make sense. But the spring and summer part is a little bit more important because it revolves around her death and also her rebirth as a cupid. So keep that little detail in mind. Now Kana is like the mentor of the group, or at the very least she's more Koharu's mentor. We don't really have like a definitive age about all the girls. We can just assume that they're all high school students based on like their age or how they act, and I'm pretty sure most of them are high school students, so we don't know who's oldest and who's youngest. But Kana seems to be the one who's most tenured in this type of position. She's very relaxed but is also very serious, and we learn more about that a little more into the series, and it's very nice to kind of just see that going on with her. She seems like a sweet girl, but she also does have a bit of a violent streak, seeing how compared to the other angels who just, well, not angels, the other cupids who have like just regular guns and like maybe a shotgun or two, she has like a whole machine gun, grenades. So it does prove that she's been in this job for a rather long time, and we don't even know how long it is, and you kind of have to wonder, how is it that she isn't able to like get her second chance of life if she was able to afford all these weapons? Because we do learn a bit more about the karma system later on. When it comes to her name, Kana, it does mean summer and summer waves, and I do have to wonder if that has something to do with the way that she died or when she was born, because I would assume that she seems to be some sort of like summer kid, but at the same time the summer waves thing makes me wonder if maybe she drowned or something involving water was the reason for her death. Chiho's name was a bit more hard to pinpoint. Now Chiho has a bit of a hyperactive, overly competitive, battle-ready personality, and when you look up her name, you're expecting something very like combative, but her name is known for being used in thousands. The main meanings that I got when I looked it up were thousands of generations, worlds, and also nights, and I don't really know how that could connect to either her death or her rebirth or understanding more about her as a character. It just kind of seems like maybe, I do know based on my research that it does mean that her name is used for wisdom a lot, so maybe she came from a very high up family or an upper crust family, who's to say. But her name didn't give me any definitive meanings about like her life before, her life after, or any indications of what her death could be. And then finally we have Ina, who again, we are 2 for 2 in characters who don't give me a definitive meaning about what their names could mean in terms of possible backstories and maybe even deaths, because Ina's name means, and it just means gift from God. So maybe this could mean that Ina came from a more religious family, possibly like from a shrine or something, but that's my biggest indicator, because really that was the only definition of her name. She doesn't have any other definition. It's just gift from God. So oh no, there was another definition, because the next definition that I have, but it's a bit harder to decide what it could be. It means bestow something on someone, such as kindness or generosity. Ina does have a more serious personality. She almost has like this whole leader type going on, and you can't be totally sure if she's like the leader, but she definitely takes command. So I do see that possible connection to like maybe religion or being very professional. It could mean something in that regard. Again, it doesn't really show a whole lot about like possible death. Maybe she was giving too much and then it ended up being her downfall. That's really the only thing I can come up with. But now let's actually get into chapter 1. We begin the story 5 years ago when Koharu was 15 years old in high school. Now, Koharu was like considered a bit of a matchmaker while she was in high school. She was helping a lot of her classmates fall in love, finding them their perfect matches. You could say that she was a cupid before she was a cupid. And there was a girl who was her best friend. Her name is Aki. Now, Aki does kind of point out later on throughout the chapter that Koharu has a tendency to look out for other people before looking out for herself. In fact, before we get later on into chapter 1, Aki does bring up how it seems that Koharu has made her entire focus helping people find their loves, but she's not really focusing on her own loves. And she's trying to like tell Koharu that like she needs to kind of look out for herself more instead of like looking out for others. And Koharu kind of like brushes off this advice because it's like, you know, I'll do it when I have the chance. And she's basically waiting for Aki to get out of her art class, well, her art club. And it's very sweet and nice. You can tell how close friends they are. Now, as they're walking home from school, Aki decides to confess to Koharu. Now, Koharu was like, she was basically telling Koharu, like, you know, you need to stand up for yourself more. You need to do more for yourself. I don't like seeing you just, like, you're not treating yourself well. And she's trying to, like, make, you know, Koharu realize that she deserves to care for herself as well, just like she cares for others. Koharu immediately realizes that Aki is basically trying to say that she misses hanging out with her because she's been so busy with helping matchmake people. And Aki, in that moment, decides to confess in front of like a bunch of cherry blossom trees, might I add, that she likes Koharu. And, you know, it's so sweet. And Koharu is there, but she talks about how she's not feeling anything, how she feels frozen, like she doesn't know what to do. She's not feeling any spark, any connection. It's freaking her out. She wants to fall in love with Aki, but she doesn't know why she's not having that feeling. And would you like to know what happens next? I want you to guess what happens next. Alright, you locked your answers in? If you guess that on top of a construction site of a building, an iron beam falls down, and then Koharu realizes that the iron beam is about to fall on top of them, pushes Aki out of the way to save her, and in the process has a metal spike driven in between her stomach and dies from the blood loss, then you'd be correct. I'm honestly gonna give the author props on this because at least it wasn't a fucking car. They always pick the car in manga, so I'm at least glad she got a little creative with it. Anyway, in her last moments while Aki is holding on to her, you know, Koharu starts having like flashbacks and looking back on her life, and she does realize that Aki was right, how she was like having a tendency to look out for others more, but not for herself, and how she starts to realize how she never really had her own hobbies. What kind of hobbies would she have taken up if she did give herself the chance to look into these hobbies? And in her final moments before she finally passes on, she comes to the realization that she just wanted love after all. And, you know, who is cutting onions right now? Because, well, I need to eat. Also, I'm like in the completely other side of the house because I cannot do this. Like, she's such a sweet girl, and she's a child too. Like, you know, like once you get older and you start reading these stories about like kids in high school, it's like, God damn it, you're so sweet. This can't be happening to you. And I feel like what really adds to this moment is, like I said, Aki was confessing in front of like these cherry trees. And I don't know if you know this about manga, if you're watching this and you've never read manga, but like confessing to your crush under cherry blossom trees as they're blooming is like the Western equivalent of confessing to your crush on Valentine's Day. It is considered to be extremely romantic in Japan. So the fact that, you know, she waited for these cherry blossom trees to bloom to confess her love to Aki, it's tragic. It's fucking tragic. It really is. And you want to know what really adds on to this tragedy? Is, again, Koharu's name means spring and summer. The cherry blossom trees bloom in the spring, meaning that she literally died in the springtime of her namesake. And if you think to yourself, this can't possibly get worse, right? Surprisingly, it might get a little bit worse. Chapter 2, Koharu wakes up about 5 years later and is greeted by Kana, who basically tells her that she has died and has now become a cupid. Through this exposition, we learned that cupids and some more about them. Now, you don't have to stay a cupid forever. In fact, you can retire from the role as cupid. Again, getting into the karma system, if you help enough people fall in love, you collect karma. And when you finally filled up your karma meter, you get a second chance at life. However, the whole second chance at life thing doesn't mean that you're taken back to the point where you die and like everything is back to normal and you get to interact with your friends. No, you are sent back to the age that you died, but all of your friends who are the same age as you are now older than you. So right now, Koharu is stuck as a 15-year-old, but all of her friends and her family are now older than her. So she is now 15, while all the friends that she grew up with would be in like their 20s. You see how I said that this could get tragic? You want to know how much more tragic this can get? Because believe me, it's going to get even more tragic. Like, there's so much doomed Yuri going on, and it's very, very sad. Now, if you think that this can't get worse, now, Kana takes her to see Aki again, right? And like I said, this is 5 years into the future. And if you're wondering how is it that Koharu only became a cupid 5 years later, it's because the whole like process of becoming a cupid can take rather long. And so even though what felt like moments to Koharu, it was in real time, like 5 years in the future. So when Kana brings her to see Aki, Aki is now a university student. She is the same age as me, 20 years old. And I just want to ask, how many of you guys know that not know that I'm 20, but assume that I was in my 20s? Because I'm surprised, because at my job, a lot of people thought that I was 16. So I just want a consensus to figure out how many people still think that I look like a 16-year-old. I don't think that I look like a 16-year-old, but I guess I'm a little biased. And during this, when we finally get to see Aki and Koharu reunite, but even Aki can't see her, we unfortunately learn that Koharu's target, her first mission, is her best friend, Aki. And now, to learn something a little more tragic, guess what? A cupid is reborn on their birthday. When we saw Koharu died, she died under cherry blossom trees. When she was reborn as a cupid, she was reborn under cherry blossom trees, insinuating that she was born in the springtime. And this could possibly mean that when Aki confessed to Koharu, her birthday was coming up, because it's like the same position, the same cherry blossom trees in bloom. And the cherry blossom trees only stay in bloom for about like a month to 2 months, a little over a month. So that could possibly mean that Koharu died either after her birthday, before her birthday, or even the week of her birthday. And I wouldn't be surprised if the author decided to reveal that, yeah, she died in the week of her birthday. I wouldn't be shocked at that at all. I feel like the author would definitely do some shit like that. And to chapter 3. Aki is this very popular student at an arts college in Tokyo. From what I've seen the translators say in the English translation that I read, it seems as if she's a part of the Art University of Tokyo, which seems to be a rather prestigious university. So, she did that. And she seems to be very popular. In fact, we see that a lot of her classmates are rather infatuated with her. However, Aki seems to not have any interest in them at all. And I'm talking like no interest at all. And so Koharu is like looking through her file, because whenever a cupid is assigned a target, they can look up their file. Now, we do learn a bit more about like the love bullet process. Now, here's the thing. You can't just like shoot a love bullet at someone while they're looking at another person and just be like, oh, okay, they're gonna fall in love with that person. You kind of have to take in other things into account. What kind of personalities does a person like? What are their preferences and physical appearances? What is their sexual orientation? What kind of, partner would they go for? Like, do they like trans people? Are they gay? Are they straight? You have to keep all these things in mind when you're looking for a good candidate for your recipient, because it seems to be a very bad thing when the bullet doesn't work, because you're not going to get any points for that. And who's to say that the reward won't be lost entirely if the bullet doesn't work properly. So I do find that rather interesting. Again, we'll learn a little bit more in chapter 7 about how the love bullet it's not like a go all be all of like, oh, you get struck with it, you fall in love, and it stays like that forever. It's a bit hard to explain, and is a bit more nuanced in its discussions about love. Now, as she's looking through the file, she realizes that Aki only liked one person. And I feel like I don't have to tell you who that one person was. It just gets worse. It gets worse. Who keeps cutting those fucking onions? Why do you guys keep cutting to me? What am again, I'm on the other side of the house. I just can't. But anyway, Koharu is trying her hardest to find a good candidate for Aki. But as she's looking for one, a new cupid enters the frame. And this is our first interaction of Chio. And believe you me, that girl is something else. In chapter 4, we do realize that not all cupids get along like we initially thought. It seems like there's a bit of a competition. Now, just because you get assigned a target doesn't mean that another cupid can't take that target. Again, it's a competition. All of the cupids are trying to gain karma so that they can get reunited with their loved ones and get a second chance at life and a second chance at love. And so it's not unusual for cupids to like battle it out so that they can get their reward. And Chio is one of those cupids. And more so, she doesn't really seem to care about giving people the right candidates. It does seem like there seems to be that like hierarchy going on where the cupids might not fully care about which one is going to act for a long-lasting relationship. It seems like more of a short-term thing. They're still trying to find like a good candidate that they might fall in love with so that the love bullet does work. But like, it's not going to be a long-term relationship, probably rather short-term. And, Koharu, she's not going to take this sitting down lightly. That's her best friend. She's not going to let her best friend fall in love with any old guy. But because she literally was just born today, like this is her first few hours as a cupid, she doesn't know how to fight. She doesn't even know how to properly use a gun in this. So it's very hard for her. So Kana steps in as her mentor and is like, well, hey, let's make a deal. We're not going to use any guns. This is going to be a hand-on-hand fight. And so Chio agrees because she's a bit more like competitive. So she's just down to fight for fighting's sake. Now, this is where it gets interesting. We learn that cupids, when they hide their wings, can disguise themselves as humans. So now Koharu is disguising herself as a human and pretending that she's a high school student going on a tour. Unfortunately, if you're thinking that Aki's going to recognize her, she's not. She's not going to look like the Koharu that Aki saw. She's going to look like a completely different person. And basically, into chapter 5, we are going to see not Aki, but more so Koharu trying to like learn more about Aki as she's like in her 20s now, and how big of a divide that's caused, and learning a bit more about her in chapter 5. Now, into chapter 5. Listen, I am not excited for chapter 6 because it's so fucking sad. But chapter 5, Koharu has infiltrated the group, pretending to be a high school student, and during her infiltration, she realizes that a girl named Kasuga might be a good match for Aki. Now, I do want to talk about Aki's name meaning a little bit. Aki's name does mean sparkle, bright, and autumn. What that could possibly mean in regards to her personality, and she does have a bit of a bright personality, I guess. She is a bit standoffish and stubborn though, and we do see that throughout the chapter. As for the whole autumn thing, it does seem like she was just born in the month of autumn. I wouldn't be shocked if they did reveal that, oh yeah, she was born in autumn. And I feel like that's a nice little parallel between her and Koharu. Koharu born in the spring, her born in fall. It's a nice little dichotomy going on. Doom Yuri at its finest. And Kasuga's name, can you guess what it means just based off the name itself? Because if you guess spring day, you'd be right. Another thing that I want to add is her last name is Sakura. And if you don't know, the cherry blossom names are named Sakura. They're Sakura blossoms. And another thing, Koharu's last name does include Sakura in the name. I think it was Kasakura. That was her name, Kasakura. It had a Ka in it, and then it had Sakura. So her name also included Sakura. You know, don't you just love it? Don't you just love it when fiction incorporates the whole "you remind me of the person I had feelings for" trope? Don't you just love that trope? Don't you just think it's amazing? Isn't it just not completely and utterly tragic? I like to pretend that it's not utterly tragic. Now, we go back to the fight scene between Chio and Kana. And Chio is a little shocked at the way Kana is acting, because she's like, listen, you used to be like this big shot. You were like really well known and feared, and now you're acting so like sweet and innocent, and like, what's going on with you? Like, there's been this complete 180 in her transformation. And she's just talking about how, well, I just want to be a good mentor for Koharu. I just care about Koharu. And Chio is kind of like, there seems to be something deeper going on. And I think there is something deeper going on, but I'm not going to get into that yet. I'm going to wait until after chapter 7. And so during this whole fight, this girl plays dirty. She plays fucking dirty. She's not upset to play a little dirty. She uses a grenade because, as she stated, she said it was a no guns fight. She ain't said nothing about grenades. Drops one of those love grenades and makes, Chio fall in love, or at the very least have this whole bunch of envy, and then ties her up so that Koharu can get a chance at helping them fall in love. Now let's get into chapter 6. Oh my god, I'm not ready for this. Well, we're at chapter 6, and if you can see the picture that I put for the chapter 6 title page, I think we can all guess this is not gonna end well. So, Koharu separates Kasuga and Aki from the group, has them get some sodas together, and then she disappears. We do learn that when a cupid, goes back to being a cupid, it seems that it erases everyone's memory of them, so no one remembers who they are. Now, Aki sits down with Kasuga and starts opening up about why she had a tendency to be hesitant about the cherry blossoms. Earlier on in the chapters, she does show some hesitance about the cherry blossoms, because whenever her friends were bringing up the cherry blossom trees, she was like, I don't really want to go. And they were all a little bit shocked when she decided that this year she actually wanted to go into the cherry blossom trees, because it seemed as if she was avoiding that while she was going to university. So it was a bit of a shock that she decided to go. She starts opening up about what happened to Koharu, how in her grief she was so consumed by it that she dedicated all her paintings into it, and in fact that she thinks that her paintings were the main reason she even got into that school. She was just completely consumed in her grief. Springtime is always a hard time for her because she's constantly remembering Koharu. And after her 20th birthday, during her coming of age ceremony, because that's a thing in Japan where when you turn 20 years old, there's this whole big coming of age ceremony on the 1st of January. It's this whole big thing there. And she realized after she turned 20 how distant her memories of Koharu were becoming, how their time spent together was so short, and how she was starting to forget them. And she's starting to realize that Koharu wouldn't want her to stay in the same place of always remembering her, and would want her to move on with her life and to fall in love with somebody else. And keep in mind that Koharu is just standing behind her, getting ready to load the gun to help her fall in love. And it's so tragic to watch it happen, because you're just hearing this girl who is only now realizing the feelings that she had for her best friend, knowing that they might not get that relationship anymore, and having to come to the decision of having her friend fall in love with someone else instead of just having her friend wait for her. And, you know, she realizes that even though they might not see each other again, and they're going to be distant, that she's willing to move on. And with that being said, Koharu brings the gun to Aki's head and shoots. And it's... who keeps cutting those fucking onions? Okay, can you get the fuck out of my face? Like, seriously. I can't do this. I'm tired of the tragic Yuri. I'm tired of tragic Yuri. I need soft, fluffy Yuri immediately. I can't do it anymore. It's sickening. It's sickening. But after Koharu does her job and she gets her award, Kana gets her a little cake, and she's kind of coming to this conclusion like, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to get my second chance at life. I'm going to see my friends and family again. But all of the emotions of the day, the fact that she had to give up on, you know, Aki, it comes crashing down, and she starts breaking down crying. And we do see Chio up above on a wall, and she's like, damn, I wanted a second match, but she's really breaking down there. And it's tragic. It really is. Now, chapter 7, not a whole lot happened in it. I would consider it a very short chapter. It's more so an exposition dump. We learn a little bit more about the lore building. The pigeons and doves within, like, Tokyo are like the messengers of the goddess of love. And so the doves have a tendency to, like, bring over, like, these files to help you see new targets. And they're very sweet. They can't talk, but they do understand, like, English. So they're very polite and nice. And, like, Koharu does this whole thing where she's, like, bowing down to them and saying, hello, nice to meet you. And all the birds, like, really love her for it. We also learned that cupids can fly. However, Koharu is very hesitant about wanting to learn how to fly, which I feel like she needs to learn how to fly because I feel like that's very important in a fight. But hey, that's just me. Maybe that's going to be a heart-touching moment between her and Kana later on. Now, we do learn how the karma system works in a more intricate way. So you can't just, like, be like, oh, I'm going to earn a shit ton of karma, I'm going to make someone fall in love every single day, and then it's going to work out. We do learn that to get certain, like, weapons, ammunition, that karma has to be spent as well. Now, Kana does the calculations. If you have to, like, get guns and the ammo plus the karma that you need to get your second chance at life, that Koharu would have to make 500 people fall in love. And, you know, of course, Koharu was like, oh my god, that's like so many people. It would take me more than a year to possibly get that many people. And Kana, being the good mentor that she is, and I'm telling you now, there's something deeper going on between Kana and Koharu. Kana is developing feelings. And I know you're going to say, I thought you said that cupids can't develop feelings. They can. But I'm saying that it's something akin to love. And it's so sweet because it's like, she's like, oh yeah, I have a lot of karma saved up. I can give you a lot of ammunition and stuff. And, you know, Koharu is just like, well, you know, I don't know how I'm going to thank you back for this. And, you know, Kana is just like, listen, it's all about your happiness. And when you get your second chance at life, I'm going to make sure that I find I'm going to keep all your preferences and all your likes in order. And I'm going to make sure that you fall in love with the right person. And it's so sweet. It's so adorable. And we get to see Chio again, ready to, like, compete with Koharu again. And it's so sweet. And that's kind of where we ended off for now. Now, I just want to talk about my possible predictions for what this series is going to do. I feel like this series is going to take place in the span of a year, possibly 6 to 7 volumes, maybe even 8. That's my assumption based off of it. We're going to learn more about the girls, obviously, because how can we not learn more about them? Kana is going to have, I feel like, the most important part within the series because she is the closest to Koharu, I feel. And since we already learned Koharu's backstory, it does make more sense to put a little focus on Kana as well. Like, how does she have so much karma that she's able to afford machine guns and grenades and all this additional ammunition, and even has additional karma to somehow also give money back, like give it all to Koharu. Like, that would mean she has like a ton of karma saved up to be able to do all of that. Like, how is she able to do that? It does make me wonder if Kana had enough karma to already get her second chance at life, but almost seems hesitant on trying to get that second chance. Like, she doesn't want to retire just yet. Okay, hi, editing me here. I just wanted to add something in additionally. So there's a lot of theories going around that Kana was supposed to be the one that made Koharu fall in love with Aki, and that the accident happened before she could fully do that, which would explain as to why she is the first one to meet Koharu when she is rebirthed, and is also kind of formed such a fondness to her. It's also been theorized that since earlier on, when we go into the first chapter, we saw like a grenade explosion, which we know is a signature for Kana, that it was possibly her, and she was like tailing around Koharu for a very long time, almost like maybe something akin to love. Like, maybe she like kind of started to like Koharu in a sense. So that's a little theory that I'm going to put out there. So hope you enjoy that. And when I think about that, I do kind of wonder if that's like that's maybe playing into asexuality or something. I don't think that that's gonna happen. I would like to think it would happen, but it might not happen. Another prediction that I'm gonna have, I think a running gag in the series, or at the very least a running plot point, is going to be Aki. And I feel like Aki is going to be that type of person who falls in love with someone, and then she's gonna end up on the target board again. Koharu's gonna see it and be like, wait, what happened? Because we do learn again through chapter 7 that the love bullet is like a lighter. A person's personality, preferences, past experience, and past romances all kind of bundle up into like this pile, and the love bullet is more so just like a lighter that sparks those feelings. And the reason that Koharu might not have felt those feelings in that moment is because there wasn't a cupid there ready to like light the flame. And in a sense, the flame metaphor is a very good metaphor as to how it works, because we do see in the prologue that people get divorced. So it does kind of show that after a while, the flame can die out or start to wither out, if not like reignited. Because we do see that they got accidentally hit, like these people who were playing a divorce got hit with the love bullets, and then they ended up like falling back in love. So it doesn't seem like it's impossible for a love bullet to wear off over time. And I feel like that's what's going to happen with Aki, because again, when you literally pick a girl who is supposed to be very similar to the girl that you had past feelings for, I don't think that that relationship's going to last that long. I'm sorry to be that person, but I really don't think it does. And I feel like that's going to be like one of the running plot points, where Koharu helps her fall in love, she falls out of love, falls in love again, falls out of love, and it just keeps going and going and going, and she's not understanding why, not realizing that she's in a sense kind of waiting for Koharu. And that's what I feel like it's gonna like end up being. I feel like Akana is experiencing something akin to love, even though Cupids can't feel love. It's some sort of something akin to it because of how she is caring for Koharu. Like, it almost seems like a love at first sight type of thing. Like, she doesn't have to do all of this for Koharu, and it does make you kind of wonder, was she like rejected? Like, did she confess her love? She was rejected and then just decided she's just going to remain a Cupid for the rest of her life and not get her second chance at life because she doesn't really see any reason to fall back in love again? Who knows? Maybe, possibly. And something that I feel like is going to happen, and something that's definitely going to happen, I feel it in my soul, in my bones. I feel like Koharu is going to get her second chance at life, and then 10 years in the future, when she's 25 and Aki's 30, they're going to meet up again. Maybe in university, I don't know. And we're going to see Kana with the love bullet, ready to hit them both, and they fall in love. I feel like that's what's going to happen. I think that's going to happen. I'm calling it right now. And if you want me to be proven right, yeah, okay, I'll admit it. Do I want to stroke my own ego a little bit? Yeah, a little bit. But if you want to help this series, you have to, unfortunately, you gotta buy the manga. I'm sorry to say it, but you do. The money supports the author. Now, what happened basically is that the author of this manga, she came online and she was just like, I need your help to save my manga. Now, being the publication industry it's in a time. It's definitely in a time. I have also noticed this as like someone who wants to like write her own book as well. I have like my whole like first book written out, Like, I haven't wrote it yet. I've just wrote the plot for it. Like, all the stuff that's gonna happen. And I'm not gonna lie to you, and you can't get upset at me for saying this, but I mainly started this YouTube channel to get traction for my book. I mean, no, you get it all out of your system. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it, but that's what the main motivator was, and I'm sorry to be that type of person. It's just a trend that I have noticed in the publication industry, publicizing, stuff like that. It's more so not like the content that you bring, how entertaining is it going to be, how well loved is it going to be. It's more so how much money is it going to make. It has always been like that, but I feel like now the focus on like money has gotten like very severe, and it's down to a point where it's like they don't care about the story that you want to tell. They just care if it's going to make money. Is it easily digestible? Is it simplistic? If it's going into like very popular tropes and stuff like that. If it's marketable, then they'll put it on the shelves and give it promotion and stuff like that. And I feel like now it's become even more prevalent where it's like, oh, okay, you kind of need your own little fan base ready to go. Like, I noticed that with like Ice Planet Barbarians, because Ice Planet Barbarians was like a Kindle book, and then it gained so much popularity during COVID that it got an official publication. Like, it wasn't until there was like a dedicated enough fan base that they knew were going to buy these books, and then they decided to release an official publication for the books. And I feel like that's what's going on with the publication industry as a whole. Unless you already have a following, people that are ready to pre-order your book when you decide to like talk about it, they're not really gonna care. And it's also happening in manga as well, because she was like, yeah, basically, if I don't get enough sales, because the sales for the first volume were so low, they were very, very low, that her manga would have been axed after 2 volumes. And that's it. After 2 volumes, you know, it wouldn't be getting any more publications. And so she came online and she was like, listen, I need the help. Please help me out and try and support my manga. Now, the thing about the Yuri community, we're a small community. I actually want to do a completely separate video about why I feel like, you know, Yuri media and lesbian media does not get the same amount of attention as like gay media, because that I feel like is a serious problem in fandom. And every time you try to bring it up in a fandom space, people want to accuse you about being homophobic and stuff like that, when it's really not that. I feel like it's something deeper, because it makes no sense why so much Yuri ends up getting canceled or doesn't see the light of day or just never gets the same attention that the male counterpart gets. And it's not fair at all. Like, it's just not fair, and I hate to see it happening. And as the Yuri community, we were ready to support this manga. When I tell you, it's been getting like this overwhelming amount of support, and that's why I made this video. I know it's a little all over the place. I know that I only have like, what, 85 subscribers. So what is me with my 85 subscribers gonna do? Not a whole lot, but I can do a little something, can I not? Now, the main way I've seen people try and support the book is buying the book through Bookwalkers. You go on the Bookwalkers website, you will look up Love Bullet, and you can buy it digitally. You could also buy a physical version on Amazon Japan. And I do need to tell you this, there is no official English translation. The reason I was able to read the English translation was because of fan translations of the manga that was bought offline. That's how I was able to read it. It's just, you know, people who know Japanese translating it for us. And, you know, I feel like we're doing a decent amount of work, but I feel like more can be done. I'm going to put a whole Google Doc down, because the Google Doc also talks a little bit more about other ways you can help as well. So I'll put that link down in my description, and I'll also put in a playlist that I made. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't think the playlist is good. I know that's hard for me to say, but like, my music taste is a little shit, and I don't feel like I did the perfect amount of job at doing a playlist. But hopefully you guys enjoy the playlist, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you like and subscribe for more content. In fact, my next video, now I have a lot of videos that I'm planning. I have 3 main videos. The first video is possibly going to be the issues with Natlan, especially as someone who comes from the Caribbean and is half Hispanic, and it's like seeing the way the representation is going. I feel like I need to dip my toe in. Another possible video, the Genshin Impact writing, how it kind of sucks. Another video I have planned, The book is right there. You can see it flapping in the wind of my fan. Red, White, and Royal Blue. I am rereading the book for the presidential election. And also a miraculous Ladybug rewrite video that I've had sitting in my Google Docs since 2023. I've had that script sitting there for an entire year. And I filmed the video originally, but the audio was bad, so I deleted it. And then I never refilmed it again. So 4 possible videos. And if you really want to see those videos, then you should like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know that you're probably not enjoying the lighting situation, but I fell asleep, so that's why it's like this. Have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good whenever it is. And I hope to see you all again. Bye-bye.